Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to Canada, what not to do in Canada. So, I assume this is a video going into, as a tourist, if you go to this country, you shouldn't do these things, right? And now every different country has its own sort of customs and norms and things that people sort of usually do, maybe things that you don't do there, but maybe are sort of normal in other countries. And yeah, I guess we're just going to see throughout this video different things that you shouldn't do in this country. That is the whole point. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hopefully you're going to enjoy. Hopefully you're all doing well. If you're from Canada, let me know if you agree or disagree with this video. And yeah, let's just jump into this reaction.
Hey there, fellow travelers. Mark here with Walter's World, and today we're in Vancouver, British Columbia, here on the west coast of Canada. And today what we have for you are the don'ts of visiting Canada. Because of a country like this, it's so beautiful, it's so much to do. Of course, there's tons of stuff you do, but here we're going to talk about what you shouldn't do. And the first don't I have for you as a tourist when you do come here to Canada is don't compare Canada to the US. Don't call it the 51st state. Don't say that Canadians are American.
Rule number one. I mean, if you're doing that, you're pretty brazen. You're asking to get into some hot water. That's what I feel like, if you're saying that.
Americans, unless you want to get a long list of the many reasons how the US and Canada are different, because the locals will give you a very informative and very in-length description of how the US and Canada are different. The thing is, you might want to know all those differences, but the thing is, it's not going to make you a lot of friends if you do say that, and it will not be appreciated by the locals. So that's the first thing. Now my second don't for you is, don't try to talk with your Canadian accent, eh? Nobody's going to appreciate it, buddy. Look,
buddy,
don't try your Canadian accent. No one is going to appreciate that, okay? And also what you'll see is when you travel around Canada, that stereotypical Canadian accent, no one really talks like that anymore. Yes, occasionally you hear a buddy and occasionally you hear an A, but in general, the Canadian accent that we hear on TV, like if you're thinking back to Strange Brew and stuff like that, doesn't really exist anymore. It's kind of like in the US, you hear a lot of people making, oh, America and stuff like that. People don't really talk like that anymore. It's really mixed up in the US, but it's also really, like here in Canada, it's really mixed up. So you don't have that accent. So don't try your Canadian accent when you do come up here. Again, not super appreciated. Now let's move into more don'ts that are really specifically for tourists. The next don't I have for you is don't skip the line. Don't line jump. Don't queue jump. Don't queue skip.
Yeah, that's a very British thing as well. People just queue. If you jump the queue, like you're like, that's rule number one of the British handbook. Don't do that. Yeah, I think there's like a meme. British people love to queue. I don't know if it's the same here or what, but I think skipping the queue anywhere is just a bit like you'll be looked at a bit weird anyway, but maybe not. I don't know. I hate people who skip queues though. It's just like, what are you doing?
However you say it, Canadians respect the line. Okay, so whether they're lining up for a bus or they're going into a store or going to the post office and things like that, Canadians get in the line, they form the line, and they stay in the line. And people don't appreciate it when you try to butt in front or jump in front of it, okay? So don't skip the line. And the thing is especially if you're going to be getting on public transport, our fourth don't is don't bum rush public transport. You know, I know other places around the world, it's like the doors open on a bus or the doors open on a metro or something like that, and everybody tries to run in.
Oh yeah. I hate that. See, in the UK, you basically always wait for people to get off the bus and then you get on after.
And run out at the same time. Well,
again, it's like an unwritten rule.
They're a little bit more civilized here in Canada, okay? So make sure you let people get off the bus or get off the SkyTrain or the train or the metro or whatever. Let people get off before you get on, okay? So no bum rushing, okay? No group rushing onto the public transport, all right? Now the fifth don't I have for you is don't expect to hear a lot of French outside of Quebec. I know in the US we're taught that English and French are the two official languages of Canada and everybody learns them and everybody can speak them and things like that. Well, that's not actually, well, it's the truth that everybody learns it, but it's also the truth that not everybody speaks it, okay? So if you're going to be in Quebec and the provinces by Quebec, yes, you will need some French. But outside of that, if you're in Vancouver, no, you don't need it. Now my next don't has to do with safety for tourists. And
I mean, Vancouver is literally the opposite end of the country to Quebec, isn't it?
Be honest, in general, Canada and Canadian cities are super safe. You're going to be fine walking around and enjoying yourself, but that doesn't mean don't pay attention. So my thing is for you is don't forget about basic safety precautions when you do come here to Canada, because you know what, there are parts of different towns you don't want to go to. You know, downtown east side here in Vancouver, it's not really a place you want to go as a tourist, and so you do want to pay attention. So maybe ask, hey, is there any part here in Toronto we shouldn't go, or in Vancouver or wherever, just to have a heads up. So though it is super safe, don't forget the basic safety things that tourists need to know. And that kind of leads into our next don't, which is kind of a safety thing, is don't feed the animals. Look, when you come to Canada, and I'll talk about it, there's amazing national parks and provincial parks, and you're going to see so much nature around, and you're going to see amazing nature animals as well. Yeah, there's bears up here, there's beavers, there's all kinds of stuff. Heck, we saw a black squirrel just running around. Don't feed the animals, okay? Unless you have something out against them, because if you feed the animals...
Vancouver is so pretty, by the way. I saw this the other, I think it was yesterday, I was doing reactions. I didn't realize how beautiful the city was. Like, the scenery is crazy.
They come back to the same spot. They come back into the cities and stuff like that. So don't feed the animals, because it can be dangerous for them and for you. Now, my next don't for tourists is don't skip out on the gas stations and rest stops. Look, when you're coming to Canada, the country is huge. It's enormous. And when you're driving, you're going to be driving for hours, okay? And the thing is, you may drive for hours, but there's not stops every 40 or 50 kilometers, okay? So you really have to plan ahead. So if you see a rest stop coming up and you're at a half a tank, I would say go in and fill up, because when you have these big distances, it can be that you start getting worried. Am I gonna have enough gas to get to the next one? So do pay attention for that, because I know when we drove from PEI to Toronto, there's a lot along the way. There's a few times I'm like, hey, I'm getting kind of worried, all right? So do fill up every chance you get. And the thing is when you do fill up your gas tank, our next don't is don't forget to fill up your tummy at Tim Hortons. Look, Tim Hortons is like, they've got sandwiches like nicer than Subway, and they've got coffee like a Starbucks, and they've got donuts like Dunkin' Donuts, but way better donuts. Tim Hortons is the place you're gonna go.
It's just better than everything. It's just a combination of better fast food chains all into one.
And eat and stop at the rest stops and gas stations around Canada. So don't skip out. Grab some Timbits, or I just like their normal donuts or a sandwich or something like that. So when you fill up that gas tank, fill up your tummy as well. And speaking of filling up your tummy, my next don't for you when you come to Canada is don't eat from international chains, eat from Canadian chains and Canadian restaurants when you come up here, because they have their own versions of all this fun, fantastic fast food kind of stuff that's really good. So whether you're grabbing a burgers or a burger...
Is that Seacrest in mashed potatoes? That's not Seacrest. What is that? Just in mashed potato.
You're at Harvey's, or you're heading to Tim Hortons, or you're going to Swiss Chalet. There's a lot of restaurants you can hit up when you're driving around and enjoy. And yes, you should go to local mom and pop places. I mean, the food here is fantastic. You have so much immigration and so much culture that came here. And when people brought their culture, they also brought their spices. So the food is fantastic all over the country. So don't hit the Starbucks, hit the Tim Hortons. Don't hit the McDonald's, hit the Harvey's. These kind of things, because you'll really get to experience some of the really great food that's here. Grab a beaver tail, which is, you know, a fried dough with cinnamon sugar on it. It's so good. Or of course you gotta have poutine, which is...
Mate, I do want to try this so bad. This looks like such a great creation.
French fries with cheese curds and gravy on top. Oh my God, there's so many great little treats you can have, and you have those at the Canadian restaurants, not the international chains. Hit those Canadian chains. And what's crazy is the Canadian chains, I find to do a better job than a lot of their American counterparts back in the US. For example, A&W, I am not a fan of A&W, the restaurants in the US, but in Canada, man, I'll take my kids to them like that. They're good, they're nice, and they've got root beer. Another great thing that Canada and the US do together. We both love root beer. Always a nice thing. And so if you're going out to eat, you're going to have really nice service when you are here. And that kind of leads us into the next don't of coming to Canada. And that is, don't forget to tip your waiter. In Canada, you tip 15 to 20% to the wait staff. Like, not at a fast food place, but if you're at a sit-down restaurant.
So is it similar to the US then when it comes to the tipping culture?
Where they bring you your food and drinks and stuff like that, 15 to 20% is standard, okay? Leading off of that is our next don't. Don't expect the price to be what you actually pay.
Again, so this is similar to the US as well. Oh, this just confuses me. Damn. So it's like you don't actually get it doesn't show the VAT when you look at the price when you're buying it. It only shows it when you paid for the food.
Here in Canada, they have sales tax, and you'll see different versions of it. You'll see a GST and a PST here in Vancouver, or you'll see HST over in Ontario. So basically, GST, goods and services tax, PST, provincial sales tax, HST, harmonized sales tax. So you have sales tax that are added on to the price at the end. So if it's, $10 for something, $10 for it, well, you're gonna pay, $11.50, because that's 15% if you got HST at 15%, okay? So just know, don't think that price is the last thing you're gonna pay. So sales tax plus tipping, so prices, don't expect them to always be what you actually pay here in Canada. Now, another don't I have for you, and I've kind of mentioned this before, is don't skip out on the national parks and the provincial parks throughout Canada. I know it's a huge country, so you're going to be staying in a different region when you see stuff. And if you see there's a provincial park or a national park nearby, hop in the car and go visit it. Because the views and the hikes or the skiing, there's so many options out there for you to enjoy, snowshoeing and stuff like that. Whether you're going to Banff or you're going, Banff is great, okay? You're going out to PEI, because the nature here is really, for me, the nature of Canada is the real reason why you come here. I mean, don't get me wrong, Toronto is an awesome city to visit. But when you got a place like Vancouver, it's actually the nature you want to see, not the skyscrapers. And so get out and enjoy that, okay? So don't think it's just a city tour, city visit of Toronto and Montreal when you're coming here to Canada. The nature is the true star of this country. My next don't for you is don't freak out about the prices. Now I know HGTV has taught us that Canada has insane prices. Yeah, that's only in real estate, okay? If you're looking at actual going out to eat and things like that in hotels, I find the prices here in Canada to be comparable to the US and Western Europe, so it's not an expensive vacation, it's not a cheap vacation, it's just an average vacation, okay? So don't freak out about the prices. I know HGTV makes it $1 million for a one-bedroom, 300 square foot place here in Vancouver. Well, yeah, probably, but for you as a tourist, no, okay? Prices, don't freak out about them, all right? And speaking of the money, don't throw away your coins. Look, in Canada, they actually have coins that are worth something. They have a $1 coin and a $2 coin, the loonie and the toonie. I'll let you...
Same in the UK. You've actually got some pretty hefty coins.
Guess which one's the 1 and the 2, all right? And those are actually worth something. Like, you can get stuff with that. So when you get all your change in your pocket before you leave, don't just throw it out. See what you have. I mean, today we paid for our breakfast in coins, okay? So you do have valuable coins, so don't just throw them away. But also, don't expect to see pennies. They don't have pennies here, so you can't really flip it in for good luck or flip it in to make a wish. So there.
I think the UK you have 1p, 2p, 5p, 10p, 20p, 50p, £1, £2. Why do we still have 1p and 2p coins? I don't understand. I've got them here actually. I don't know why anyone would care. I think there's probably all coins in here. I've got 1p coins. Yeah. No one cares about that. And I'm not even showing it either because it's not even in the view of the camera. Look at that. My life savings right there. I don't know why we still have 1p and 2p coins though. I guess it's just fun. And also a bit weird, but...
is that. My next don't for you here in Canada is, which should be obvious everywhere in the world, but here especially, don't forget your manners. Look, you're going to hear sorry and a lot of apologies when you are here in Canada. And what you find is the longer you stay here, you start saying sorry, sorry, sorry a lot more. It's like, oops, I bumped into this inanimate object. I feel I must say sorry to it. You do have that kind of polite apology, sorry nature here. So don't worry if you become more apologetic while you are here, but don't forget your manners, because when people say sorry, tell them, hey, no worries, man, it's all good, no problem, all right? So you have that. Now, my next don't for you, and it should be obvious by watching this video, is don't think that Canada is just ice and snow all year round. I'll be honest, we spent a summer traveling through Canada a few years ago with a family. It was fantastic. We went from Prince Edward Island and we were in Quebec City, and then we were outside enjoying stuff, and it was warm, it was beautiful, it was sunny. You have this great weather here in the spring, in the summer, in the fall. You have good weather. Yeah, in the winter, no, it's cold and crappy. Actually, except for here in Vancouver, where it's just rainy, it doesn't actually snow very much here in Vancouver, huh? Shocking, I know. But the thing is, don't think it's always ice and cold and stuff like that, all right? Know that, man, if you come here from May through September, you can have a great family vacation and enjoy yourself. I mean, we're here in May in Vancouver. I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt and loving it. I mean, I'm actually getting sunburned, so I actually need to put a hat on. So just have a heads up for that one. Anyway, I hope this helps you know a few things you don't do as a tourist.
Well, there we go. I feel like a lot of these things are things like, for example, manners. It's just good to have that everywhere, isn't it? Like, maybe certain cultures just don't really focus on the manners, but I think that's just something that it's just nice. It just makes everything like it will make someone just a bit happier if you just say please and thank you, just stuff like that, or sorry, this and that. When a Canadian thanks you, the appropriate response is you're welcome and not Fair enough. That's the same as the UK, isn't that the same anywhere? Bonus, don't be late in Canada. It's considered rude. Canadian here. I wish my Canadian-born spouse would understand this. When this video is in your recommended, but you're already Canadian. Edit down. Here's another tip. Don't ever ask a clerk if the price is in American or Canadian currency. Is that a common thing? For God's sake. That's quite funny. But yeah, there we go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. I assume there's probably some more don'ts. I guess you can let me know in the comments what those sort of things would be. I think some of these are like quite comparable to the US and also quite comparable to the UK. It's like a mixture. Like for example, the sales tax and stuff, that's a very American thing. Tips. I mean, you do tip in the UK, but it's not mandatory like this and that. And also, I know in America you tip for things like Uber drivers. Do you do that in Canada as well? Because I just find that mad. Like, they already get a decent amount of money in the UK. Like, I don't want to tip them more. But maybe that's me being selfish. But yeah, let me know some more stuff if there is in the comments. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, and peace.